Orbiting Jupiter right now is the most terrifying world in our solar system. This is a moon that doesn't behave like a moon at all, and you will soon find out why. By every normal rule, a world this small is supposed to be cold and dead. However, this moon isn't dead at all, but is violently, terrifyingly alive. This is Io. If you tried to land on this moon, you wouldn't just be dealing with the cold or the vacuum of space, you'd be landing on a world that is literally turning itself inside out every single day. Scientists call it a geologic nightmare. I call it the floor is lava game. But for real, you see all those colors? The bright yellows, the oranges, the sickly greens? That's not weird lighting. That is sulfur. The entire moon is covered in it. It smells like rotten eggs. It's constantly shaking, and it shoots lava higher than the International Space Station orbits Earth. Today, we are going to talk about why this moon is the most dangerous object in our solar system. We're going to find out why machines die here, why humans would melt here, and why NASA is terrified of getting too close. This is the story of Io. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to be very glad you live on Earth. Here is the weird thing. Io is almost the exact same size as our moon. Now, basic physics tells us that small things cool down fast. Think about a cup of coffee versus a bathtub. The cup gets cold in minutes. The bath stays warm for a while. Planets work the same way. Earth is big, so its core is still hot. Mars is smaller, so its core is cooling down. Our moon is tiny, so it froze solid billions of years ago. So, why is Io so hot? It's small. It's really far from the sun. It should be a frozen ice ball like every other moon out there, but instead, it is the most volcanic place in the solar system. The answer is actually kind of scary. It's not heat from the sun. It's heat from gravity. Io is stuck in the worst spot imaginable. On one side, it has Jupiter, the king of planets. Jupiter is massive, and its gravity is pulling Io in tight. But on the other side, you have two other big moons, Europa and Ganymede. Every time they pass by, they tug Io the other way. So Io is being stretched and squashed, literally. The solid ground, the actual rock you would stand on, rises and falls by 300 feet every single orbit. Imagine looking at the horizon and watching a mountain rise up the height of a 30-story building, then drop back down every couple of days. This constant bending creates friction inside the moon's core, and that friction creates heat, a lot of heat. Io is melting from the inside out because gravity won't let it rest. It is a world in constant pain. Because the inside is melting, that heat has to go somewhere, and on Io, it goes up. This moon has over 400 active volcanoes. To give you some context, Earth has maybe 50 eruptions a year. Io has hundreds, all happening at the same time, all the time. And because gravity is low on Io, the explosions are insane. On Earth, if a volcano blows, the ash goes up a few miles. On Io, the plumes shoot 250 miles into space. That's like a volcano in New York, shooting lava all the way to Washington, D.C. And the lava itself? It's not just hot, it's magma ocean hot. There is a place on Io called Loki Patera. It looks like a lake, but it's not water. It's a depression in the ground, about 120 miles wide, filled with a crust of cooling lava. Every now and then, that crust gets too heavy and sinks. When it does, a wave of fresh molten lava sweeps across the entire lake. It's essentially a tsunami of fire. If you stood on the edge of that lake, you wouldn't just burn. The thermal radiation is so intense that the water in your body would boil before the lava even touched you. But let's say you have a suit, a super suit, one that can handle the heat. You land your ship on a nice flat patch of yellow ground. You step out, you look around. The sky is black. Jupiter is hanging above you, looking massive and terrifying. You think you're safe. You're wrong. Because the most dangerous thing on Io isn't the lava, it's what you can't see. This is the part that genuinely freaks me out. Remember those volcanoes shooting gas into space? Well, that gas doesn't just disappear. Io dumps about 1 ton of material into Jupiter's orbit every single second. This gas gets stripped of its electrons. It becomes ionized plasma. Basically, it turns into a giant, donut-shaped cloud of radiation that circles Jupiter, and Io orbits right inside that donut. If you stood on the surface of Io without a radiation shield the size of a tank, you would be dead in minutes. The radiation level on Io is about 3,600 rem per day. Let me put that in perspective. 500 rem is usually fatal to a human. You die. On Io, you are getting hit with 7 times the lethal dose every single day. Your skin would burn, your organs would fail. But even before that, your technology would die. See, radiation scrambles electronics. This is why NASA has such a hard time sending probes to Io. When the Galileo spacecraft flew past Io years ago, its camera kept crashing. The radiation was resetting the computer while it was trying to take pictures. And it gets weirder. Io actually acts like an electrical generator. Because it's moving through Jupiter's magnetic field so fast, it generates 400,000 volts across its surface. It creates a massive electrical current that flows between Io and Jupiter. It's basically a lightning bolt that never stops striking. So, let's recap your vacation so far. The floor is lava. The air smells like sulfur. You are standing inside a giant electrical circuit, and you are being cooked by radiation. Sounds disastrous already, right? But wait, there's one more thing. The weather. Io has an atmosphere. It's thin, mostly sulfur dioxide, but it's there. But Io has a problem. Every orbit, it passes into Jupiter's shadow. Now, on Earth, when the sun goes down, it gets a little chilly. On Io, when the sun goes down, the temperature crashes instantly. It gets so cold, so fast, that the atmosphere literally collapses. The gas in the air turns into solid flakes. It snows sulfur. The entire atmosphere falls to the ground in a blanket of white frost. For 2 hours, the moon is in a vacuum. It's silent. It's frozen. Then, as soon as Io comes back into the sunlight, boom, the frost sublimates. That means it turns from ice straight back into gas. The atmosphere explosively puffs back up into existence. Imagine that. Imagine if every night on Earth, the air froze and fell on your head, and every morning it exploded back into the sky. That is the daily reality on Io. We spend a lot of time looking for life in the solar system. We look for water on Mars. We look for oceans under the ice of Europa. We look for rain on Titan. But we don't look for life on Io. Io is a warning. It shows us the violent power of gravity. It shows us that a world doesn't need to be close to the sun to be hot. It just needs a giant planet to torture it. It's beautiful to look at. The colors are incredible, but it is a beauty we can only admire from a very, very safe distance. Because Io doesn't just want to end you, it wants to erase you. So, next time you see a picture of Jupiter, look for the little yellow dot next to it and be thankful you aren't there. Thanks for watching. I want to know what you think. If you had a suit that made you invincible, would you actually visit Io? Or is the radiation just too much? Let me know in the comments.